Well, all right. Well, thanks everybody for hopping on. Today's going to be an interesting one. Um, I particularly like this one, especially for this time of year, because man, this is the question, right? It's we need to put together a campaign. What assets need to be created? What do we need to do? I know I think everybody on here is getting campaigns up, or we've been working together on getting campaigns up and running. But let me just see here. Some people are hopping in. There we go. So yeah, I wanted this to definitely be a discussion. And then also, just go through confirming some of what I'd say the assets that we need to have set up. Let me turn off this waiting room. Come on. Turn off waiting room. Okay, cool. Hey, Tiffany. All right. All right. Well, look, many of you on here, we've spoken a lot. You've been on these sessions. You've probably heard me talk a lot about the different assets that need to go into a campaign, but let's talk about it, right? So this is the time of year. I know many of you have open house campaigns that you're running. You have campaigns you're running to get more tours. I'm talking with many of you, maybe not on this one, but I'm having conversations about, hey, we want to get people to apply. What does a campaign look like if we want somebody to apply? I will say that's a lot easier said than done, by the way, but we can talk about that. But whether you want to unmute or type in the chat, um, what are what are the campaigns you have going on? What kind of campaigns does everybody have going on? Is it open houses, tours? What kind of campaigns are you putting together?
So we're working on our open house season. So that's the campaigns that we're working on right now is getting people. I mean, obviously you always want them to apply, but but yeah, we're working on our open house season for campaigns.
Nice. Anybody else? What kind of campaigns? Yeah, man, you've got open house. Greg, good to have you on. I know you got an open house going on. Tiffany, got any events going on, or is it more focused on tours?
Yeah, it's a combination of events. So we're doing virtual open houses, and then afterwards we invite families in for small group tours. I mean,
Hmm.
for everyone else on the call, just so you know, we're a school based in Brooklyn. We're a school for students with learning disabilities. And so the reason why we offer the virtual tour first is because we want to make sure that families are aware of the students best served by our program. So it's not just, an open free for all. Like we're very
Hmm.
mindful of making sure that families are aware of the supports that we do not offer. So rather than them taking a half a day off from work to come and tour, we offer the virtual tours. It's easy to hop on. We offer pretty much every month. We offer one for one of our three divisions. And then for particularly in the lower school and the upper school, we follow up with invitation for an in-person tour. We don't do small group tours for our middle school because we have very few spots available. So those are reserved for families that we bring in for the actual interview itself.
Love it. Anybody else? I love that you're doing virtual tour, virtual info sessions. Um, I talked with a handful of schools that are doing those kind of in combination with live events or live tours. Anybody else doing virtual stuff? Had success with virtual? Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm seeing a lot of virtual for very specific purposes. There's this one school that I work with in school in Canada, and they do virtual sessions on like topics, which I found really interesting, which is like a financial aid virtual info session, an athletics virtual info session, talk with current parents info session. So it's very kind of niche info sessions, if you will. They do it virtually and then they invite them. So all different types of ways to do it. We could probably talk all day about different ideas about how to do events and tours. But this is the time of year for that. So let's talk about whether you're doing a virtual, frankly, whether you're doing a virtual or in person, um, the assets that you need to build the campaign pretty much the same. There might be some more reminder emails for the virtual because you can get reminder emails all the way up to the 5 minutes before you're about to go live, and maybe that's a little bit different, but otherwise, everything should be pretty much the same. So let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. What do we need? Let's start making a checklist. What do we need to build a campaign? And I'm going to share my screen. So my tab 1 has a lot of this stuff already, and some of you may certainly know this already. But let's talk about it. What do we need? What do we need if we're building a campaign? What are some of the things that you're putting in place for your campaign?
So you need a sign up form.
We need the form. We'll come back to forms. Yep. What else do we need?
So the invite,
Advertise.
yeah, marketing.
Well, let's be more specific. So what does the invite look like? Or where does the
Everything,
invite
right?
live?
I start with
Social
a
media,
goal for the
social media.
campaign.
Oh, I heard it.
Said I usually start earlier with what's the specific goal and then try and design everything towards that, or what am I trying to improve from prior. I usually start there and then design the form or the landing page or the invitation specific to what that point is or what we would like to see.
Nice. I like it. So yeah, what is the goal, right? Target audience. And along the lines of target audience, it could be target grades, right? That's one that comes up a lot. I've been a part of many campaigns where it starts as like a whole school campaign, then halfway through you're like, ooh, we need more middle school, we need more high school. Let's focus there. How do we do that? We'll talk a little bit about how to do that because it's actually probably a lot easier than you think to target very specific grades. So what is the goal? Build some target audiences, target grades. Based upon that, Matt, you had said it's time to build that landing page, right? Landing page.
Yeah, I
Landing page is
usually
gonna
build the landing page while I'm thinking about what information I actually need from them in order to make sure they're getting what they need out of the event. So the form for me is included, what do I have to know from them?
Yeah. So the form, what info do we need to get? We'll come back to that because that's always an interesting discussion. All right. Target audience, landing page, form. Let's go back to invites. Helen, I saw you had posted in there social media, direct mail invites. So let's talk about invites. So we'll talk about social media, direct mail. How else are you all getting the word out there and inviting people?
The listservs. If we have a list,
Listservs.
like our database of families. I mean, for us, we're also mindful of not only emailing parents, but also our partners in this work. And so if there are schools like placement directors, for our program, we work very closely with like psychologists and pediatricians. So folks who work very closely with families.
Yep. So local businesses, right?
Hmm.
And what are you doing with them? Are you giving them materials to like display, or how are you working in conjunction with them?
So a bit of both. So we have little cards. In fact, it's like right here. So we have like these cards that we hand out, or when we have professionals visit during their professional open houses, we give them stacks of these. Or you may actually go to their offices and say, can you just like leave this here? And so evaluators, psychologists will include like leave us in their waiting rooms. And it has the QR code for families to sign up and find out more information. And then also the providers, we have their contact information in our database. And so we'll send them information to say, hey, want to learn more about our program, please send this to your families, forward this to families to hear more about Mary McDowell.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Yeah, Ben, I saw Helen, you had said we asked to use their newsletter, if they can post in their newsletter. I think it's fantastic. Whenever you can harness somebody else's database, that's a great opportunity. What else? What else are we doing to get the word out? Say advertising, right? Now you might include that with social media, but you know, advertising, that could be social, could be Google. Fairs, handout info, fairs, a lot of things we can do. So the point here is we've got a lot of channels that we can harness. And using as many as possible. I mean, the only thing that can happen is we get more results. Here's the only thing I would suggest when doing all of this stuff, just making sure it's all tracked. So that at the end of the day, you know, you meet with the board or you have the same conversation next year, you can look back and say, where should we spend our time and money? Right. So if you're doing stuff with local businesses, what you can do with their postcards, have a dedicated QR code set up. If it's in their newsletter, so that's like a link, right? Dedicated vanity URL or UTM parameters. If you don't know what UTM parameters are, it's essentially some data that you can add on to the end of a URL that indicates where somebody came from. So in your backend software, whatever you're using, if you're using our software or others, or even like Google Analytics, you can see, hey, who clicked on that link and who registered from that particular link. So you can have the same destination. You can have 5, 6, 7 different URLs with different UTM parameters, one for social media, one for local newsletters, whatever it might be. So tracking is extremely important. So social media, direct mail, again, QR codes. Advertising should be automatically tracked. Fairs, again, QR codes, QR code for the fair. So point is, you want to be able to track all of this because people will be coming from all different places. Let's not forget just our normal website. So to make people aware on the website, what I always recommend is having either a pop-up or sticky banner. I've had personally the more success with the sticky banner where you can still X out of it. But if you put a banner at the top or bottom of your website or something like that, where it's like, hey, open house event, November 5th, that's another way to drive awareness. Yes, you're going to have it on your events pages and things like that, but creating that awareness the moment somebody hits your website, that's going to be really important. Let's see what else. Helen, when you say how do you track ad space, like on which ad platform?
No, I mean like when you're spending, so we put money into the local like
Oh,
GTA newspapers. Like how do I know whether or not that print ads or people always suggest like why don't you do like why don't you do television ads or why don't you
right.
do billboards or bus stops, right? And I mean I'm not, it's a lot of money and a lot of people say we should do it, but how I can't track the ROI on that. I don't know how you would do that. A QR code in a bus stop. I mean, I don't think people in bus stops are making decisions on whether or not they're sending their kids to independent school. I could be wrong.
Go ahead, Matt. I saw your hand up.
Uh, we actually point all of our non-trackable advertising, so paper invites, posters. We have a spot on the local public radio that runs. We track all of them towards our website where there's a pop-up, and we can track organic traffic that way through that pop-up. They click a link and go to our landing page from there. It's an extra step, but it allows us to track it. Then if they show up, we give away a basket of swag if they just fill out a slip of paper where they will check boxes of everywhere they've seen our advertising and then put it into a hat. It's pretty basic, but we actually found that um, the kind of signs we put out in front of our building are like our second best advertising, and posters we hung up in pre-Ks last year were top 3 for us. Just
Nice.
from that
Oh,
metric.
cool.
But that's how we track it, and that's how we try and digitally track it as well. We know who comes to the website and clicks, as opposed to paid social.
Okay. I mean, we on our inquiry form and also on the application, we ask where you heard about us, but people only put one thing. Like they don't, they don't say I saw you here, I saw you there.
Yeah, I have
It's
found
just
that one, that particular thing. We have that too. I don't trust it or believe it. It doesn't do anything for me. Unless I'm offering a t-shirt, they won't give me the information for some reason.
okay. Do you do the baskets at the open houses?
Yes.
Like if they
So
come over and fill out where have you seen us?
yes, but it's valuable information because they showed up.
Okay.
So it's specifically of the people that showed up, where did they see our advertising? Which is not maybe as valuable as everyone that responded or everyone that saw it, but it means we got a conversion because they showed up.
I like it.
Converted in that way.
Okay, good.
That's cool. I like that. Let me add on to. I mean, yes, you can do QR codes, right? There's nothing wrong with adding them on there. You never know who's going to click it, who's going to see it. It's kind of funny. A couple of years ago, it said QR codes were kind of dead. Now they've been revived over the past year or so. But the other thing to do as well, it's definitely requires a little bit more time. But you can set up what I like to call, again, vanity URLs. So you could think about if you have a landing page, right? Maybe you're using our platform to build your landing pages. You can have landing pages, a separate landing page for the radio, right? So, KCS, right? /radio, KCS /local for like a local business. And they all go to a dedicated landing page, and you know how much traffic and registrations you got from that page. You know that if they put in radio, they came from the radio, and that's the page, and it's all the same, but you're getting the data about who came from where. So that's almost like a manual way to do it, just by having dedicated URLs and landing pages for those particular channels. By the way, since we're on here, I know many of you are using our software. You're some of the first to learn about this. This is a brand new thing that just got launched. I haven't even had a chance to announce it yet to everybody, but I just want to draw your attention here that if you go to settings, external tracking, if you put this code on the back end of your website, now you can track form fills, opt-ins, page views. So it's almost like a more detailed Google Analytics now that'll populate right inside the platform. Not just ads and general, like, oh, they came from Google search, or they came from paid social or organic social. If you have a link from a third-party website, right, a newspaper, this will track that specifically, down to the contact level as well. So if you have, this is in settings, external tracking, and you just want to put this code and follow these instructions, you can troubleshoot this. If you have any questions on this, hit the help button, hit live support. This is new support, by the way. You can do live chat or jump on a Zoom call right away. Say, hey, I'm trying to set this up. Doesn't seem to be working. Maybe is this installed properly? So quick side note, since many of you on here are using the software, since we're talking about tracking, this is brand new. All right, let's go back. So great question, Helen. Any other questions on invitations? I mean, there's so many different things we can do, and these are great. And ideally, the more the better. What else? Let's do this. What other assets do we need? What other assets do we need? So we talked about the goal, we need a landing page, we need a form on that page collecting kind of the minimum of what we need. We need to get those invites out.
You need your visual and text assets that you'll use in your advertising that all kind of lead back towards the goal or the event or whichever.
Yep. Advertising assets, 100%. We want to definitely talk a little bit more about that. Right. So this is going to be your visual, so images, videos, and text.
You'll also need a budget.
You don't need budgets. You just put in as much as you want. But yes, we need a budget. Need a budget. What else? I can think of a few more things.
Are we at the point of talking about the speakers?
Well, I would say that that's more internal operations for the event itself. Let's say more from the marketing. I have my marketing hat on, so let's say more from the marketing side of just getting people there. What else? All right, let me toss a few others in here. We need our, I'm going to say our follow-up automations. Right, I can't tell how many people I've talked to is they're doing manual reminders and manual confirmations. It doesn't, you don't have to be using our software. You can use any sort of form, so any software that typically has a form associated with it. You can usually do confirmation. So that includes confirmation. I would say at the very least 1 day reminders, potentially morning of reminders. If virtual, I would have reminders literally up to going live. If you notice, many times when we have this session, we have a hey, we're live email that goes out when we go live. And same thing for our Thursday webinars. So many people hop on because they come from that we are live email, because I could literally send out an email an hour before and 20 minutes later you've forgotten you even got an email, because we're all inundated with a million things. Same goes for your parents. So if virtual, I would have reminders going up to the point of live and literally saying, hey, we're live, come, the waiting room is now opened and you're good to go. So follow-up automations. And I would say these can be email plus text. More and more schools now are doing text messages. And then let me do one more thing with automations. I would say, I'm going to call these confirmation plus reminders. And then I want to say follow-up automations. Because after the event, the tour, whatever it is over, we should have a follow-up for those that showed up. No shows. Right. We want to include next steps. Invite to the next event, tour. Invite them to apply. And again, you can automate these things. You can automate these things. What else? What else did I miss? Miss anything? I think if we had all this, we're in a pretty good spot for any sort of campaign that you need to run, right? So if we go back to this, we've got who's our target audience, our target grades. We got to have a landing page. Let's talk about the form real quick. If you're having an event, the forms that I typically recommend that give you information, but that aren't overwhelming. I can't tell how many admission directors I talk to are like, well, we have to capture everything about them, or we have to get them to create an account first. I would highly recommend against having somebody have to create an account in whatever software you're using in order to register for something. So it's usually just going to be name, student name, grade of interest, um, email, phone. You could put, how did you hear about us? Any other questions you typically ask or that you want to ask on the form? Okay, cool. All right. Now with the landing
Oh,
page.
I was
Oh, go
gonna
ahead.
add maybe Clint, and maybe this is primarily for folks who have rolling admissions, maybe to add the school year that they're interested in, because like for us, for example, we're still enrolling for this year. And so it would be helpful for us to know that they are looking for like immediate placement.
Yeah, so you can do like
Yeah,
year of entry.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a common one. That's fine. Yep, so year of entry. Okay, good. Yeah, I think this is perfectly fine for an event registration. Any more than that, we typically see conversion rates decrease. Let me also mention landing page. We've been doing a lot of testing. So I'm going to talk about long versus short. And we also want to have a thank you page. So one of the things that we have been testing are, like I said, short form pages. So like, for example, here's an example of a landing page. I would consider this longer form. We've had go dot, many of you have seen pages like this. These are longer form pages, something like this. Right, that's a longer form. We've been testing shorter pages, especially for tours. Hey, Greg, if you're able to hear me, would you mind if I share your landing page since it's doing very well?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So, Greg, you guys have an awesome landing page. This page is performing really well, which is just this. It's a short page. Scrolling images, just what the event is, a form. You can see it's pretty standard form like we just went through. If you have multiple events as well, you might want to have a drop down which event you want to choose. That's a pretty standard one. But what I would say is, if you can A/B test those, I will say right now for events, short is winning. Shorter pages are winning right now for the events. And if you have any questions or anything about, especially about A/B testing inside of our platform, either let me know, hop into a chat like, hey, how do I set up A/B testing? It's pretty easy to test out long versus short and find the winner. Because this plays a vital role in your success. If we, as we know, the average landing page is 1 to 1.5% conversion rates. We're seeing that short page. So we're seeing dedicated landing page on the shorter side is converting anywhere from 3.5 to 7%. So we're getting 3, 4, 5 times the conversion based upon the type of page. So if you're not using landing pages, I'd recommend doing that. And then also looking at testing long versus short and seeing what wins. So for a long time, I've always tested it. Longer was performing better. We found kind of that shorter version, that shorter one's doing very well right now. So constantly A/B testing is really important to getting the most bang for your buck, getting the best results. All right. And then the last piece here with the landing pages, sometimes I feel like it's the forgotten piece, which is your thank you page, right? So it could be something like this, right? Here's your next steps. What should you expect next? Make sure you check your email. I know, like in case of, Greg, again, thanks for letting me share the landing page as part of their process, right? If they have a childcare sign up form, that if you need childcare during the event, they have that available. So that this is a good place to put that. Hey, do you need childcare? Click here. It's also a good way to keep them engaged, right? It could be click these links to learn more about our programs, read these testimonials. And then also from an operations standpoint, the thank you page, so it can give details, so it's more details, it's testimonials, links to popular content on your site, and also for tracking conversions, right? So you put conversion tracking on that page. So if anybody hits the thank you page, you know that that's a conversion. So you can track conversions that way. All right. Questions on that? All right. So we've got our landing page. We've got our form set up. We've talked about invitations. We'll probably wrap up with advertising. I just want to talk about making sure you set up well, we kind of talked about automations already. But when we look at automations, if we just go into, let's talk about automations here. Helen, you had said multiple landing pages based upon grades. That's a great question. It's one we get a lot, right? Is it landing pages based upon grades? I've played around with this a lot. And the thing is, if you're doing a campaign and you're targeting, let's say all grades, let's just say you're K to 12, right? Should you have a high school landing page? Should you have a kindergarten landing page? I think that's part of testing. More recently, I've been having, if the event is an open house, typically it's here's the event, everything's on one page, and then you can choose your option for there. So, all right, you're interested in the lower school, here's everything you need to know about the lower school, here's the campus invitation, and then on the form, you select which one. Because especially if you're advertising, it's very hard to be perfect with your targeting with Facebook, right? And you also might be targeting families that might be interested in both or one versus the other, where they see an open house, like, oh, I clicked on the high school one. So what I have found is that usually having one page for the event itself with multiple ages works just fine. Getting them split up, I haven't seen it increase the results for the amount of time that it takes to do all of that as well. Now, for different types of events that you have, whether it's, hey, we've got a virtual info session and we also have an open house campaign, I'd have them on different pages, because when you run your ads, the messaging is different and somebody's going to be interested in one, maybe the other. So if you're running multiple type of campaigns. So I hope I answered your question there. I would typically just have an open house page with the multiple grades on there with multiple options so that you can direct everybody there and then they can choose. Let's go into, okay, cool, Helen. And then when you're setting up automations, I would just keep it real simple, real basic at the very least, which is, again, you need software to do this, but if somebody books a tour, registers for an event, we want to send out a confirmation email, a 24-hour reminder, maybe a 1-hour reminder. Those emails should have details about where to park, what building to enter, what do they need for the event. Can you bring kids? Can't you bring kids? Have all of that, but also think about getting them excited, right? Have testimonials from parents. What's going to help increase those show up rates? I was having that conversation this morning, right? What should your show up rate be? I typically see for events, the show up rate is anywhere from 35 to 40% for open houses. Typically 65, 70% plus for tours. So, but we can always try to, how do we increase our show up rate the most? One, you want to make sure you have reminders. Two, if you get a phone number set up texting reminders, because 98% of texts get open. So make sure you have text reminders in there as well. Just out of curiosity, for those that are on here, what are you finding that your show up rate is? Let's talk about for open houses specifically. What are you guys seeing as your show up rate?
Our show up rate is pretty high. Um, I will share that our response rate, like our landing page, isn't quite performing at 2%, but in the past, our response rate has been in the 90%. People usually sign up and come.
That's pretty amazing. That is officially the highest I've ever heard of for an open house event. I
It,
saw Helen, you had said 50%. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm aware that it's unreasonably high. I will say, like for our winter open house, we usually only get 6 or 7 people saying that they'll come. So like the people
Okay,
saying they'll come is also lower than we would want. I don't know if they're self-selecting or not.
gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Helen, you said you're at 50% now or over 50%. That's awesome. I was gonna say, if you can get to 50, 50 is a great mark to hit. And everybody I've talked to, and like I can see it's, with the software, 30, like I said, 35 to 40 is kind of that number. So if you're over that, you should be feeling pretty good about that. So with 50 and 90 is pretty awesome. Um, that's great. But yeah, you want to do everything you can to help remind people life happens, get them to show up. So email reminders, text reminders. Tiffany, what kind of show up rates do you have on the virtual info sessions?
Yeah, they're about 95%. And again, I think it's because it's virtual. And so with the
Yeah,
reminders leading up to it, folks can easily just hop on, even if they've forgotten.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. What kind of reminders are you doing? Are you doing pretty much all those reminders leading up?
Yeah. So we'll do a reminder typically a week out. And then if an event falls like on a Tuesday, we'll certainly send it out Sunday and then Tuesday morning.
Nice, cool. That's great. All right. All right, awesome. So as we start, getting all of our assets together here, we've got our landing page, we've got our form, we've got our invites, we've got our backend automation set up. And let me add just one other thing, which is, reminders leading up to it. But then there's also the follow-up. You can automate and prep for this ahead of time as well, right? So you can, for those that show up, we can mark them as they showed and send out an automated follow-up after, or put a sequence of emails that and text that go out afterwards, encouraging them to take the next step, fill out an application, book a personal tour, whatever it might be. Similarly for no-shows, being prepared with those follow-up automations so that you can literally just build it ahead of time and then automate that to go out when the event is over based upon whether you've tagged them as show up or not, or they haven't showed up. So again, if you're using our software, you can do that pretty easily. Just do the email templates ahead of time, and then you can automate those templates to be sent out based upon, hey, if I tag you as showed, you get this email automatically sent to you, and vice versa. Um, I have had questions about, can we automate like the whole thing, which is, can you automate if they showed up or didn't show up and it tells the system? And the short answer is yes. Um, it's not foolproof by any means. So here's what I mean. How would the system know, any system you use, how would they know if somebody showed up to an event or not? And the short answer is they would have to register when they get there. So it could be scan this QR code to indicate you've showed up, fill out this form to indicate that you've showed up. Now you have to hope that they use, here's where the errors can potentially come in. You have to hope that they use the same email that they registered with. Otherwise, it has no way of detecting, is this person the same as that person that showed up. So the identifiers are the phone number or the email. So, but you could do that, which is when you show up, scan this QR code or fill out this form, and then that would indicate to the system if they filled this out, they showed up. If not, they didn't. And then maybe an hour after the event, you can actually have those emails and everything queued up to go to those that showed up, to those that didn't. I've had a few schools do that, and without fail, there's a couple people who are like, no, I did show up, but then you realize they didn't put in the same information they used to register, so it didn't realize that they weren't in fact a no show. So that's where some errors can come in. But but yeah, that's how you could automate that if you want. But I think it's safer and it's fine. Just have those emails and communication queued up, and then you just literally go through and be like, okay, toggle them, toggle them, toggle them. They all get this email. All right. Let's talk about advertising, because this is always comes down to the nitty gritty and the tricky part with advertising. And it's where I spend so much of my time, working with schools, just on the strategy with it, right? Something I've been repeating, and sometimes I feel like a broken record about, which is making sure you have a lot of advertising assets. So, Matt, you had said, make sure you have your visual and your text. 100%. I would typically recommend 4 to 5 images or videos. And then, hold on, 4 to 5 pieces of copy, right? So at the end of the day, now you have 20 different, 16, 20, 24, whatever variations of creative. And each one of those pieces of creative should hit on a core feature of the school or a pain point that your parents have, right? What are they looking for? Is it an academic angle? Is it, we just did an ad for focusing on inclusion and DEI, right? We did an ad on that. Is that the angle? Is the angle small classrooms versus big classrooms, right? That messaging is going to resonate with different personas of families. The nice part is you don't have to choose which one to put out there. Put out all of it. And I can tell you that Facebook wants you to do this as well, especially if you do Facebook. Google is different, right? That's intent based, based upon people that are searching for those particular keywords. I do want to talk a little bit about different Google campaigns. But if we're talking about Meta, which is what I would typically recommend for an open house campaign, you run Meta ads 30 days prior to the event. It does really well from a cost to get a registration, anywhere from $50 to $75 per registration. We've seen it as low as 20, upwards of about $75 on the higher end for registrations through Meta. But the most important thing is you want to put a lot of creative out there, because what Meta is even saying right now is, again, they're saying, we'll find your audience for you. You just put out the creative and we'll place it with the right persona. And just to give you one more example of that, there's a school that every single month we're doing info sessions for. They're using the platform to use info sessions. And one of those months, they said, hey, we need more middle school and high school. And the first reaction many times to do that, if you want to target them, is, well, we have to change our targeting. We have to go into Facebook and choose parents of kids of a certain age. And don't do that. You don't have to do that anymore. Literally all you have to do, if you want to target kids of a certain age or families that have kids of a certain age, call them out in your ad copy and have imagery that represents them. Meaning, if you want middle and upper school, middle and high school, literally in the ad copy say, hey, middle school and high school families looking for middle schools and high schools, families looking for kindergarten, right? And then obviously have kindergarten kids on the images or high school kids. Just by doing that, the algorithm, the AI, it will find your audience. So as you're sitting there thinking about, hey, we've got these events, ooh, we need more elementary school. Just change your copy and your images. Don't worry about targeting. You do not have to worry about targeting. Any questions on ads? And I mean, I have a gigantic folder of templates, and this is what I would mean. You try all different types of designs, right? Whether it's leading with, hey, we've been named the best school, different, use the same template, you put different images of kids in there. I would say if you're running an open house, having the date and the open house right on the image is very important. If you're using video, make sure that on the video, don't worry about on the video saying, hey, come to our open house. If you want your video to have some legs to it, using it in multiple campaigns, put a static title at the top of it that says, open house November 7th, and then just have the video run. That's probably one of the bigger mistakes I see folks make with their videos is that, yeah, you have the video in there and it's a great video, but you really want to see the call to action immediately. You want to see the call to action immediately, regardless of how great the rest of the video is. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, so literally try all different types of images, graphics. You could use this same one, just keep replacing the background. Have athletics, have graduation, have kids in the classroom, have a picture of your campus, and find out which one wins. I guarantee you, one, you will be surprised about which one wins, but something will win. I've also seen recently with a campaign where all we literally did between one campaign and the next is we put a bar at the bottom that just said limited spots available. That's all we did. It increased the click-through rates by 30% just by having that on there. So testing out little things like that is really important. But don't treat your digital ads like a billboard where you get one shot and one shot only. Have a lot of different creative. Helen, you had said geographic location. Yes, good point. 100% do geographic location. You definitely want to just put in your radius of your area, but that's it. You don't really have to hone in on specific areas. Facebook will find your audience. Any questions on that? Any questions on building out your ad campaign assets? All right. One other thing I want to mention about ads, if you're, let me see, this is just a demo account. Let me see if I have access. I don't remember if I have access to this right now. I want to show you the ad platform real quick. First. Let's try that. All right, we're gonna let this load for a second. I just want to show you something with Google that I have a lot of schools right now that are running what are called Google Performance Max campaigns. So with Google, the most common type of ad that a lot of everybody thinks about Google ads are typically Google search ads. Let me X out of all this. Come on. So you see, here's all the different platforms you could advertise on. Google search is what everybody thinks about with Google, right? So if I type in private schools near me, right, here's a sponsored result. This is a Google search ad, right? These are good. They work well. Where was I? Which tab was I on? Here we are. That's Google search. You're going to show up there when you target a particular keyword. They're typically a little bit more expensive, but that's okay because you're targeting people that are actively searching. What I'm seeing work really, really well, as long as you give yourself maybe a month and a half to get these ads started, are Google Performance Max. So what we know is that Google owns, seems like everything these days, but they own the search engines, they own Gmail, they own YouTube, they own the display network, they own a news network, they own maps, right? So think about running a campaign and then you're letting Google decide where your ad should be placed. So no matter whether somebody goes to YouTube or they go check out the weather, let's go check out the weather. And if you go to weather.com and you're inundated with all these banner ads here, as this loads, this advertisement that's going to pop up here, you could have your ad here. So this is part of the Google Display Network. Now, Display ads typically don't get a high conversion rate, but they do a really good job with awareness. So if you run an open house campaign or a tour campaign, the advantage to this is you're using all of Google's assets to have a display ad, and then they go flip through their Gmail, you're there. Then they search for you on Google, you're there. You go to the Google News, and you're in the news feed where it looks like you have a news article. So Google Performance Max is another one to take a look at, depending upon your budget. If you have under $1,000 budget, I'd probably just stick with Meta. If you can get into the $1,500 to $2,000 range, I'd probably look to include Performance Max in with Meta for a particular campaign. All right. And I see there are a few folks that have joined us recently. Welcome, welcome. Again, we were just going through. I'm not sure exactly which parts you hopped in on, but we'll do a quick recap. So Helen, oh, thanks, Tiffany. See ya. Helen, when you say how does AI work with this mix, with Performance Max or in the platform itself?
In advertising all around, I'm just curious because I've been seeing a lot of stuff where, you type something in and it actually responds. So Gemini is just giving you an answer before you even get to scroll down to the sponsored content in Google.
Oh, yeah. Well, that I would put in the category of SEO. So now that's called ASEO. Essentially AI SEO, right? So
Right.
if it's like, let's see if it pops up. What
Or
is
even
the
LL or
best-
even LLMO, they're calling it, right?
Right. What is the best private school in Philadelphia? Right, here we go. So it's giving me the answer. So the question is, how do you get in here, right?
Yeah.
And this is pulling from niche, it's pulling from, so Shipley got in there. That's interesting. And it looks like a US News and World Report. Shipley's an actual school. Like these are more like aggregate type of websites. Niche, we all know what that is. News one. So how does Shipley get in there? Let's see if we show all. See if there's any other schools in here. Friends Select is in there, Germantown. So it looks like it's pulling from all these resources. Oh, here's an example. That's why they're pulling in there. So I don't know if anybody remembers a few years back, they used to have, before AI, Google had what was called featured snippets, where if you asked the question, it would pull in those answers that came from that website. But you're like, well, how do I get my answer there? Well, one, you have to make sure that you're answering that question in your content, right? So it looks like it pulled in Shipley right away because it said something about the best private school or whatever it said. There's things that you could call what I would call what it's called markup schema. That's back end stuff. There's whole SEO stuff around it. We've actually started to implement AI SEO. Now we have a tool that we're launching here with to do AI SEO specifically. So again, a little bit different in this case, but I just want to mention that yes, this is what is here. You're even hearing now ChatGPT has their own browser coming out that is, I think it's called Atlas. That's going to be an AI browser essentially. So that's a whole other ball game, but yeah. But again, to your point question, to your point about the question around AI in regards to this. So there's a couple different ways that AI comes into advertising. One is you have to understand that AI is just in the algorithms these days. So you have to trust that Meta, like I don't know if anybody remembers, maybe a year or so ago, there were rumblings that, well, as we all know, Apple got rid of the cookie tracking. If everybody remember that story, like, oh my God, they're going to get rid of cookie tracking, which is how you do retargeting and how Facebook knows who to deliver ads to because you were searching for shoes and now you see ads for shoes, right? Now there's the privacy. Then there were the rumblings that Google was doing the same thing. They were going to get rid of all their tracking, and everybody was like, well, what's going to happen with Meta ads? That was how they delivered ads because they could track when you were doing all these websites and the browsers. And what if you can't do that anymore? Well, they didn't really care because they pretty much knew they had AI, and AI will find your audience. So that's one. So like when you come into advertising, on our end with targeting, we can do AI targeting in here. So that's step one. So AI, again, you don't have to do much other than say, I would like AI to find my ideal audience. And you just put in your creative, and that's all that matters. So you're definitely putting a little bit of faith inside the platform itself to do that. But after running hundreds and hundreds of campaigns in here, AI typically works the best. What we have actually that's kind of new in here that I'm actually still testing, and I was even at a call this morning, I said I actually recommend not to use this version of AI, which is AI can now write your ads, write updated ads in real time. Meaning, let's say you write 4 variations of copy, right? So copy 1, copy 2, right? We keep writing all this different versions of copy, right? You can have AI as the ads are running, write you new ads and place new ads for you, right? So on one end, that's pretty cool because they can see what's working and then write new ads for you. I will say on the other end, schools in general, obviously more particular about the brand and the messaging and things that you say. If you were running a pizza shop, right, or a car dealership, I would have no problem doing that. Schools, I think you need to be a little bit more cognizant of your brand and your messaging and the words that you're using. So I'm a little bit more hesitant to have AI running side by side with your ads, writing new copy as you go. With that being said, we do utilize AI to move budget around between platforms and between ads. I think that's where where I see advertising AI shine with advertising is one, it'll find your audience for you, and two, it can do data analysis faster than we ever could and move your budget around better and faster than you could by just analyzing what's working and what's not working. The good news is there isn't a whole lot you have to do to activate that. It's already kind of automatically activated to do it. Just being aware that that's what's happening, though, that's what's important. So, there's going to be a lot more on the horizon, stuff that we're probably not even thinking about right now. But literally, like right now, if you go run an ad in our platform, there's going to be an option that shows up that says, do you want to turn on AI optimization? And you could test it, but I've been having conversations with people saying, again, just be careful if you're going to use it because it's AI is going to write your ads for you in real time. All right. Well, look, I know we're at the hour. I want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate everybody hopping on. Any final questions about, hey, building a campaign from scratch? Thanks, Helen. I'll talk to you soon. And for those that hopped on, just to kind of recap, we said put together your goal, who's your target audience, your target grades, build a landing page. Yeah, I can share this doc, Sandy. Let me do this. I'll share it. I'll put it in the chat right now if you want access to it. Be aware, I'll probably start cleaning this up because we kind of built this as we were going. So I'll just keep you as a viewer for right now. And let me copy this. Put it in here. All right, that is in there. So just again, to kind of recap is we have the landing page, test long versus short. Where we now we're seeing shorter landing pages are working best for events. Have a thank you page. Build a form, minimum information that you need. Where are you? How are you getting invitations sent out? And we talked about a lot of different options from direct mail, local businesses, advertising, your own parent newsletters. We talked about building those advertising assets and setting up automations behind the scenes. So if you have any questions about this, shoot me an email. Happy to always jump on a call. If you're not using our software and you want to use our software, our goal is to really get this to be like a one-click install, and that's something we're working towards. And I'm hoping we'll be able to launch that here shortly, which is having all of this is done the moment you open it. But if you want to see a demo of that, if you're not using our platform already, shoot me a message or go to getames.co/demo, schedule a demo with me, and we'll go through it. But with that being said, everybody, thanks for joining. Any final questions? Cool. Well, again, thanks everybody for hopping on. I will see you next week. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Take care.